Okay, no, I can't. I'm in the middle of a recording right now. Alrighty, and let's just see. Let's see what I got here. There we go, we're live. And so this goes out to Dan Kinzer. And let me just tag you in this. Okay, I'm streaming this technique for you here now. All right, so this is my Blunder through Blender, creating a flat landscape from a Google map. And here is what you do. So you go into Blender, and you don't need any of this. You don't need the light, you don't need the camera, and you don't need the cube. Don't use a cube. I find that doesn't work well. So I hit A to select them all, or just drag over and select them all, and then delete. So delete all that. Now you're going to add a mesh plane. So go to Add, Mesh Plane, and you get a plane there, and then hit S and scale it up. If you want to, you can open up this here, this transform, and you can scale in any given dimension. But, and then you shouldn't, can lock it afterward. But this is what you can basically do, or just use your scroll wheel and go out and just drag your landscape for however big you want it to be. And make sure when you come up here, there's these buttons that show different views. The one that you want is not the material shader and not the render and not the wireframe. You want this one here that looks like a ball with a little triangle. That's the materials viewport shader. It's called material preview. If you get lost, you can hit the Z key and then you can go down to material preview. You don't want solid, you don't want rendered, and you don't want wireframe. You want the material preview. So it's usually found up here under that right button, but like I say, you can hit the Z key to call things up and then click on it. But that's where you want to be. Now the next thing you do is go and get your image. So let's say maps.google.com, turn on the satellite layer, and if you take a piece of this, for example, let's see if we were going to use the USF boathouse, and there it is. That's where we were today when we were on the call, USF Riverfront Park. And so I was mentioning when we were on our call that we were at the Riverfront Park, and we were sitting and talking to you from underneath this pavilion over here. So if this is the area of the corridor that you wanted to highlight, then you would come under here and just do a snip, a screen grab of that particular area. We want to keep the road here. And so there we are. And then you can take that and save as and put it somewhere. Let's just say USF Riverfront Park. Okay, so we have that one there. Now we go into Blender, and we're going to create a material for this. So select that plane, create a material for it. Boom, hit new. And I'm going to call it the Riverfront Park image. And then there's this little dot here under base color. If you just clicked on the color, yeah, you could color that, make it nice and green if you wanted to. You have those things to play with, but that's not what you want there. You want an image. So you're going to click on this little dot right here and then go over to image texture. And then it gives you under there something you can open. So go open and then find that picture. There it is. And click on it. And there it is. So that is the fastest way to get it. Now you've got two more things you need to do. One, you need to give it some dimension, or when you're in spatial, you'll fall through it. So what you do, having this selected, is you click on E for extrude, and then Z, oops, that didn't work. Oh, we need to go into edit. That's why. Hold on, let me go back here. Sorry, select this, go into edit mode, from object mode to edit mode. Now hit E for extrude, and by default, the blue Z line appears, so you can grab it up. You don't need to make it very big, but don't go negative. If you go negative, that orange line is where your feet are going to end up, and so your feet will be stuck in the mud if you go down. So go up just a little bit to give it some dimension. Now you have a surface that your feet can stand on, and now that you have that, you can go back into object mode. See, we're in edit mode, and I go to object mode. Another way to do it is to hit the tab key. The tab key takes you in and out between edit mode and object mode. So be in object mode, go to file, and say export as a GLTF file, and then, excuse me, let's see, I'll put it in, I have this folder called Tiger Blend, where I have a lot of my GLBs, so I'm just going to put it there, but I'm going to export it and call it USF Riverfront Park, like so. And, oh, and the other thing is make sure you include the selected objects. Now remember, we eliminated the camera and the light and the square, so if I just exported everything that's in this, it would be fine, but normally you want to get in the habit of clicking limit to selected objects in case you have other things in the scene, but you don't want to export them to the shape file, to the GLB file, to the model that you're going to use in spatial. So just selected objects is fine, and that's about it. And then you can click on remember export settings if you want, and go ahead and export it. So now when you come into spatial, let's make sure that this is working. Yep, it is. Okay, so now that we're in spatial, if I go to your spaces and I decide to create a space for this, I do upload a custom space. Let it do its thing. All right. First thing I do is change the name, and I'm going to call this USF Riverfront Park. And you can tell people about it if you like. And then I'm going to go in and I am going to click on these three dots here and go to environment and say upload custom environment. Select from your device and find that USF Riverfront Park GLB that I created and select it, and it comes in, and there we are. Now we're standing on it, walking by the Hillsborough River. So do you want it to be life-size? If you want it to be life-size, you'd have to go to edit here, and then you'd have to scale it, and you'd have to move it down as well. And then it's going to depend on how much resolution you had from the image that you pulled in from Google. So that's if you really wanted to. Oh, he fell through the world. So there we go. Anyway, oops, he fell through again. That's funny. So maybe we need to bring it under a little bit lower there, and then our guy should be able to walk. And he keeps falling through for whatever reason. I think it's going to be fine, but I don't really know what the scale is. So there we are. And you'd have to find a way to get the scale to be right. And that we usually do by bringing objects in from Blender so that we can scale it. So if you want to know how to do that, because now that image it's in there, then there's something else we do there. And then what we do there is you go into Blender and you find a car. So there's a car right there. And you bring in a car and put the car in the landscape. So if I see if I have a car to import, let me show you how to get a car, first of all. So let's say we go to Sketchfab and we look for a car and find a old police car. Looks like, I don't know if that one's free or not. I think we have to specify in filters if it's free or not. Filters and sort, filter by relevance, store. These say prices and this one doesn't, so I guess these are free cars. So find a car that you like. I'm kind of partial to this old police car. Let's see if somebody, no, it's $10. So I'm not going to go there. How do we find out if they're free or not? Date, licenses. I mean, CC is Creative Commons, right? Author must be credited. Author must be credited, no commercial use. Commercial use is allowed. So let me try that. And oh, there's a tortoise. Car. See if we have an automobile. So maybe Sketchfab is not the place to bring in a car. At least without license. Because if it's not Sketchfab, often I will do like free car model. And Turbo Squid is one that I often use. So let's try Turbo Squid. I have my own account at Turbo Squid. And let's try price free. And then do my search for car. And then make sure that it's free. Here they are. Okay, so this one's free here. All right, that should work. It's got an FBX or an OBJ. So go to this one. Download it. And then I'll do the legend.fbx. All right, and then go in here and import the FBX legend. There it is right there. And let's see if it comes in. There it is. It's coming very big. So, and it's coming with a lot of different stuff. So maybe what we need to do here then is get a bunch of cars, just get rid of that plane that it came in on, get rid of the camera that came in, get rid of the light that came in, get rid of that light that came in. Looks like we've got a bunch of cars here, but this car here will do for our purposes. And these cars here, we won't select when we do the selections. So, or we can put them in the model, I mean, either way. So I'm going to hit 7 to go to the top, and I'm going to bring this car here and bring it down and position it here. Now hit rotate in Z and move it. And now go to here and bring it down in Z to the landscape. And then I need to scale it down. So let me hit the period key to zoom in. And you start working with it on the landscape to try and make sure that it covers. And so there it is, and there it is. So the profile seems to fit. It might still be just a bit big. That's small. That's big. So if you can do this and get your cars in like that, and there's these other cars, we can grab them and move them. I find cars to be a really good way to go about this. And you know, and then if you can see there's another car over here that's in the parking lot, and let's rotate this around. And there's another car there that's in the parking lot. So parking lots and cars really can help you to set your sizes. and then scale with S, scale it down.
Yeah, caramel, right. My mother made the best creme caramel. You know, the flan, the Spanish flan.
Oops, went upside down.
She put little orange zest in it. And it's just delicious. And she burned the. You didn't ask it, they said no, no, no. She burned the sugar.
So these are still up in the air there, so I'm going to bring it down to the landscape and bring this one, hit G and Z and bring it down. Oops, get it. Bring it down to the landscape. So by putting cars on the landscape, you have the basic sizes. It gives you a rougher idea of what this should look like. And let me just make sure this one is still up in the air, so still gotta bring it down onto the landscape there.
I'm hoping that I melted it, but it started coagulating again because the eggs were cold.
There we go.
This is giving a lot of. Yeah.
So let's just suppose that that gives us some reference point. So now what you would do, hold on, my battery's gone low here for a second because the power came out. So let me plug this in. But all we're going to do now is export that to spatial, and then we can size it so the car can be walked into. So let's go back and forget that light. We don't want the light. Let's grab everything here, which includes the cars. So see, there's the legend, there's another legend, and there's the plane. So you can select all these, or just select it like this, and then go File, Export, GLTF, and remember to include selected objects. And then I'm going to overwrite that Riverfront Park. And I'm going to come back into Spatial, and I'm going to upload and replace the environment. And now use that Riverfront Park that I just put in. Now, keep position. And you can see the cars there on the landscape. So if it's good, and I wish that this was easier to get over there. Boom. Oopsie, there it is. Okay. So now that the car is there, the car is tied to the landscape and is correct for the landscape. Some of those cars is messed up. So if my avatar is the right size, then I'm okay. Otherwise, I can scale it for this. So obviously that car is super huge, which means the landscape is too big. And so then what I can do is I can edit it. And I keep falling through. But, oopsie, oh, and it puts me there. I've got to also move the entrance, I guess. So maybe I move this in Z. So I'm not sure myself how one sets the entrance, but maybe if I keep dragging on the entrance thing, I can set the entrance. Maybe I should drop the car in the middle of the place by now, as there's the car. Okay. So somewhere in here, that's the right car. All right. So now let's see if I can bring it up and change the scale. So it takes a little bit of jimming around, but it does appear that's a little better. And if that works, whoops, if that works, then you hit done, and yeah, then although it still seems the car is way too big, so go up and edit that environment, and let's make it, scale it down a little bit. So it's a little bit tricky to get that to work. So the best thing would be is if I could scale, try that. Best thing would be if I could scale it so that it was, yeah, it's still too big. So way too big. Oh my gosh, I actually made it larger. Would be if you knew the size of the plane that you wanted to put. And you can add an entrance point right next to the car. That'll make things easier. And let me then change the environment and edit the environment. And make the scale smaller. Of course, then it's not even under him, so that's not good. Okay, edit environmental position. So getting that landscape right is a bit of a bear. Something, it's not the easiest tool to do that. So how did that work out? Yep, still a little bit too too big. So let's scale it from 8 to 6, maybe 5.9. See what that does. Oh, no good, no good because there we go. I have to put this under him so he doesn't fall into the land. Let's try that. There's the car over there. Yep. That's a little better. Yeah, that's not too bad. Let's see if we go over here. Yeah, getting better. Getting better. Maybe it should be 5. So let's bring it down to 4, 5, something like that. And let's see if we can find it again. There we go. Over the road. Bring it down. Let's try that. There we go. So now I think we're getting a little better. Yes, much better. All right. That's looking a little bit better, and that's the landscape that we're on, and that's the... So we'd have to go and fix all this, and the thing about this is that these cars are caught in the FBX model, and they weren't right. So I'd have to go take them out and redo it. Before I get into that, I also want to show that there's various skyboxes that you can put in. So if you don't like the skybox that's here, you can go to Sketchfab, and you can add a skybox, and then if you like the skyboxes that they have, like this oceanscape or these clouds, With this one here, you can take that skybox, and then when you have that skybox, then you can set it as a skybox. And then you have a different world out there. Kind of looks more like Florida. So that is one thing you can do. And another thing that you can do is you can put in a chair like an armchair or a plane seat, and then you can go and sit in that, and then you can move this up so that you can get a look at your landscape if you want to, because the only way to really look up top is to raise it up. And then you can get an idea of what your map that you brought in looks like. But at least it's sized now so that when you jump out of the chair and you fall down, you're on that actual landscape, and that landscape is the right size. So that is one way to do it. I've got to figure out a better way to do it in terms of getting the sizing originally from Blender. And maybe a way to do it is you've got the car in there properly. This car is really messed up, so let me change the rotation to 0 here and 0 here, and oops, I need to get a keyframe there. I don't know why this 0. Make this 90. Okay, so now that car is not messed up, and this car here needs to be deleted. Actually, we don't need it. Oops, didn't mean to delete all that. I should just go to Legend Tuned and just delete that. Okay, so I've got these two cars that are on the landscape. This one needs to be brought down just a little bit. Right. But if we knew what the actual size was, like when we add a cube, the default cube is, there's the default cube. The default cube is 1 meter by 1 meter. So if you figure that the default cube is 1 meter by 1 meter, and you put it there, then you can scale everything else up if you knew how big the car was supposed to be. And let's assume that a car is about 2 meters. So we'll take this cube and we'll duplicate it and put another cube next to it. So I'm just going to move this back here. If we needed to make this to the same size, then we would grab this car, or rather grab the Honda and the plane and the plate and scale these up and keep scaling them up until we get the car to be the right size. So now if I go to the cubes, they need to be moved over. Now they're way too small, so let me move them up. Alright, so I need to make this whole landscape and scale it down now. So you'd have to mess around with this until you get the car to be somewhere near the size of the cubes. And now if I bring these cubes there, let's see if I can, yeah, so there's the cubes. They're 1 meter. So that, 3 feet, maybe the car should be a little bit bigger. So again, we'll grab everything but the cars and we'll scale them up a little bit more. And then we'll move the cubes, move them forward in. So that's one sort of way to do it. Use the default cubes and go like, okay, so does that work? And if you like that, then you can select everything and export it as a GLB. Let's replace the other one. And then when we go into here and we replace that environment, we'll select this new file that has the new sizing. Keep the position. And let's just see what those new cars look like. Well, there they are. So well, it seems like it doesn't work at all, because Blender thinks if that's supposed to be a meter, then this spatial character is way smaller than a meter. Okay, so that didn't work. That is not a viable technique, since the avatar guy is much teeny tinier. So we're going to have to figure out what the correspondence is between Blender units and the scale in spatial. And once we figured that out, then we will be able to size it in Blender before we send it out. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, because here there's a transform, but the transform is only to make it so that Y is up instead of Z, because in Blender Z is up. So that didn't do anything. It doesn't give us, in terms of mesh, it doesn't give us any indication of what the sizing is going to be. So we've got to figure that out clearly. The dimensions 2 meters, well, that's interesting, because if I bring this down to 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter, if I made it half the size, maybe it was wrong. Maybe somehow the dimensions were 2 by 2 by 2, and what we really wanted is 1 by 1, and I don't understand why that is. Here the dimensions are 7.8 meters. Wow. So really hard to judge what that is supposed to be like, because if you imagine if everything here was twice as big, then we would want to bring this whole thing down, but we'd have to cut it in half. And we could, it's 1.37, we could go down in x to 0.7, something like that. And then we could see if that exports out better. And then go back to the Riverfront Park and replace this environment with a new one. So there's the car over there. Yeah, still way too big. So, okay. That ain't gonna happen. All right, well, I'm sort of done with that. We're gonna have to play it by ear. Certainly for the map, it's easy, but it's hard for getting the scale right. That is why, and I guess I can say that here, why there is why it's sometimes important, and I put this in like this. If you do use Blender GIS or Blender OSM, and the way you do that is you come up here to Edit and Preferences, and you go to Add-ons, and then you install the Blender OSM add-on, which I must have a million copies of somewhere. Blender OSM, where are you? OpenStreetMap, nope, it's not there. It's got to be in here somewhere. If not, I'll have to re-download it. Maybe I need to show you how to download it. So let's go to Blender OSM and come there and say that you want this. Give it their price of 0 if you don't have any money, and get it. You have to put your email address, and then you download it. Comes in as Blossom. I've done it 8 times in the last so often. Keep it zipped. Go back to Blender Preferences and install from Downloads. And look for Blossom. You can go by name. And where is it? It's supposed to be there. Okay, where did it go? So have to look and see where I did it. It's here. Go to the zip folder, show in folder. It's in my downloads folder as Blossom 8 under TH Culhane downloads. So install, go up, come down. There it is, Blossom. There's the old one. All 8 of them there. So yeah, any one of them you can take, install the add-on, and then turn it on. And then a couple things you have to do in here is you have to get an ArcGIS token. And if you have accounts, then you can use your account. Seriously. Hola. All right, forget that. I'm going to not use that one. I'm going to use the Mapbox token, which doesn't give me so many troubles. There it is. So I created a Mapbox account that was free, and I'm going to grab Rosebud Continuum, copy that, go back into Blender Preferences, and put that token in. That'll get me the tiles, and then also you've got to tell it what the directory is to save the files. So let's see, I usually put it in downloads, and then I put it in OSM somewhere in here. Blender models, Blender GIS, Blender OpenStreetMap. So I'll accept that as the folder. That's what you have to go through to get this plugin put in. And then when you have that plugin, it shows up over here, and then you can say, well, I want to do the USF, what was it called? USF Riverfront Park. And there it is right there. And then you can turn on the satellite. And that's the place I was just showing you right there. So you can go in here and get your extent. So we're going to use that much of it, which is fine. Then you're going to copy that coordinate, go back to Blender, paste it in here, go down here and get terrain first, say import, that comes in. Got to change the clipping because it's not showing up all the way. Okay. Yes, that's fine. Now go in to OSM and grab the image overlay and import that. That's what we had to get that token for. But it's not going to do anything because I'm saying ArcGIS satellite and I want Mapbox. So let me try it again with the Mapbox selected. Here it goes. It's downloading the imagery. And this should be the right size. We're going to see if this is the right size for spatial once it comes in. And that comes in, and there it is. There's that. And now it has some dimension, you can tell by the contour. It's not, you don't have to do any extrusion here because this has some dimension to it. So since you have that and no extrusion is necessary, we don't think, try it out. The last thing you can do is you can also bring in some OpenStreetMap information, buildings and houses and stuff. So you can try to bring that in. And if there is any of that information, like probably the road is going to show up, yeah, and some buildings do show up, a little bit tall. But that gives you some three-dimensionality of it. And now you can take that file and select everything and export that as a GLTF, and I'll call it Riverfront Park. I do want to see before I do that, what happens if I bring my car in? Because supposedly this is the right size if the car itself was the right size, right? So if I import this FBX and I go to downloads and I find that car, what was it called? Legend, there it is. So Legend comes in and there's a whole bunch of them. And I'm going to get rid of the point here and all the way up to all that plane I'm getting rid of. I'm going to get rid of the camera. I have a legend and a legend and a legend. I got those three cars. And if I move this legend car to the front, lo and behold, it's just about, it's a bit small actually. Maybe not, because I have to bring it up out of the world. Let's see. Maybe I need to bring it up in Z. There it is. Now come to the top view. And there we go. Rotate it. Yeah, it kind of fits. So whoever modeled the car modeled it kind of right. That's the shadow. Yeah, it fits pretty darn well, actually. So let's see now if this actually works. And there is another car in here, this Legend flat. Where does that go? You can move that down, put it next to this car. Bring it up. Here, bring this one over here, rotate it. Seems to be a smaller car, but bring this down. And it's a smaller car, but we have it there. No shadow. So everything kind of pans out this way using OpenStreetMap much better. Let me save this as the I'm going to save this as USF Riverfront Park and save it in Tigerland. Okay. And now we want to select everything and we want to export it as that GLBF file, cover over the other one because the other one was a mess. Now let's go back to spatial, and being back in spatial, we'll go to your spaces, go to that riverfront park, and let's replace the bad one now with the new environment. You reset the position. Yeah, there's some messes here, but wow, there's some messes there. Car, let's see if the cars work. The cars are right. All right, well, what does this prove? This proves that the best way to do this is to use Blender OSM, because now the car is sized properly. Much, much better. Of course, the greenscape and stuff is messed up there, but at least the buildings are in there. So what you would do then is go to, that looks good. Oh, I should also have set a new spawn point. So if you say add entrance point, and I say, well, I really want to spawn right in front of the car. Now, when you fall off the edge of the world, you'll respawn that in that place. So I guess the best way to do that is to jump off the edge of the world. I think it's not letting me jump to the edge of the world. Why? I'm supposed to go. There we go. Still don't understand spatial all the way. But at least now we're walking on a piece of landscape that has pretty good resolution. And we can change the skybox later on. And off we go, so we can have our new spawn point. Goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Boom. And you spawn right by the cars, which is nice. So to get rid of these things there, I'll go back into Blender, and those things are the mapping of OpenStreetMaps, not the terrain, which is that, but these parts here. And they are water features and things of that nature and roads that came in on the terrain like badly. So if I hit G and Z and bring that down, and if I go G and Z and bring this down too, and I can hit the road here and hit G and Z. And then these buildings are a bit too high, for sure. I wrote that. I'm going to scale these down in Z to make them, and even bring them underground a little bit, just so that we have that information. Is this thing here? Can bring it down a little bit. So now, if we select everything and save this and export it and overwrite the other file, you can just keep playing around in Blender with these things and then keep replacing the terrain, the environment here. And then keep the position there. So much better. And you can see that the forested land from here shows up in green. That's a GIS thing, and you may not even want that. So what you would do is get rid of that information. You don't need that part of the Blender OpenStreetMap information. So you can go and say, I don't need the roads because they do show up. I don't need the road service. I don't need the water, and I don't need the forest, but I do want to keep the buildings. And then select everything and save and export, overwrite, come back, go to environment, upload and replace. And you do this iteratively until you get what you want. But I like the way that Blender OSM seems to correspond with spatial. So there we are. And then you can have that landscape that you can go around and walk around. I think my buildings are a bit too low now, except for those buildings there. So that gives you something to start with before you populate with other stuff. So I'll say looks good to there. Yeah, so do your work in Blender. That's the protocol that seems to work best. Now, of course, I can add a sandhill crane if I want to, because I've made one and brought it in. There's my sandhill crane that I brought in. And then boom, I've got a sandhill crane. I click on the crane, get rid of the information panel. And there it is. And we have to bring it down. Edit it, then you can bring this down.
So I keep telling people, I'm like,
So
okay.
its feet are there.
Use plastic bags. Take your own bags. Or you forget your own bags.
So you can go up to the Sandhill Crane
Let them give you plastic.
and say, "Hi, Sandhill Crane,
Everybody asks for paper,
how are you doing?"
plastic, they probably
So pretty
have
easy to then put some things in there.
get rid of plastic, 'cause they just
All right,
cheaper.
that's it for now. But as I was showing, it's the easiest thing is to just make a plane and bring it in, but it's going to be a pain on the other end getting it into spatial. So you're better off using Blender OSM. If you wanted to use Blender Street Map, it would work. That's a different plugin, so you'd have to go and get, Blender GIS you could get, and that could work similarly. We should check it out and see. So Blender GIS, you have to get the code, download the zip, and once you have that one, and that's there, then you would go to Blender, you'd go to Edit and Preferences, same way we did with OSM. You go Install, and now find the Blender the Blender GIS, there it is. There's one I just brought in today. There's one I did a couple days ago, or last month. But take that, install the add-on. It comes in, check it to get it started. Go down, give it a place to save your data, the same thing that you did. So you go to in Documents, I have Blender Models, and then I've got Blender GIS files. And I accept that as my cache folder, just like you did with OSM, and then you need to find a place to get your satellite keys. There's an orthotopography key that you need to get. And so to get that, you need to find your open topography. So you need to go to the open topography website, just like we did with the with this Mapbox account. And so you go to open topography and make an account, and I have one here, and then you need to go to your account. Oops, not that. So you need to go to my account and click on the subsection. So where's my account? My open topo, and then you have to log in, and then you have to go to my open topo authorizations and API key, and then I'm a registered user, yay for me. A request API key, and there it is. And so you need to copy it and then go back to Blender. This is the whole setup that makes it a pain, and put the API key in, and then go to your preferences and save them and close this. And now, just like OSM showed up on this side of the screen, GIS shows up right here. And so you then go to GIS and you say, what I want is a base map. And you use Google Earth Satellite. You can center it to existing objects. But what it's going to do is it's going to call up its own map eventually. And there it is. That's where it's supposed to be. There it is. There's the map. So this is a bit of pain. You go through and there's Florida. And you hit, in this case, you want to hit, I think it's E? Nope, I shouldn't have done that yet. Oops, go backwards. And it crashed Blender. All right, let's try this again. Blender. And hopefully those preferences with those add-ons are saved. I'm going to do a new map. I'm going to get rid of everything. Yes, I still have GIS there, and I still have OSM over here. But this time I'm going to use GIS. Better to start from scratch. Go to base map, Google Satellite, and say OK. Now, to find it, you're going to go to G for get, or go to, and then I'm going to say USF Riverfront Park, Tampa, and I don't know, I'm going to put zoom level like 11 or 10 or 9, let's try 9, and see if it finds it. Yeah, it kind of found it, but it didn't do such a good job. So let me go Riverfront Park, Hillsborough maybe? It's not as accurate as Blender OSM. So sometimes it doesn't even know what I'm asking for. So let me do again, USF Riverfront Park, Tampa. And I'm going to bring the zoom level up to 20. Yeah. All right, so it found it. Good. So sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Although, there it is. All right, so that's the thing. So if you can find it, if the address works, then you can grab it the same way. But what you do is you want to zoom in to the point where you can see what you want, and then you have to hit E for extrude, and it'll do the cut itself. You don't get to select it. Now, once you have that, it's got that DEM information already in it. So you're going to do basically the same thing, but in here you can try to get open street map stuff and get the elevation from the object and click on buildings and natural and waterways, highways. You try to do that and maybe it'll work. Yep, it did. So now we have a whole bunch of other information in there. Buildings look a bit high, and then again there's that car down there. There's a truck, it looks like, and several cars. So just as we did with the last thing, we can bring in that FBX file of the cars under downloads, and it was called something like Legend, right? There it is, Legend. So bring your car in, and it should map out correctly, because this is also using that kind of information. But again, we don't want the camera that it brought in, we don't want the plane, we don't want the points, we don't want those points. All we want is the Legend car, for example, and we're going to bring that up until it shows up, and then we're going to move it down onto the parking lot, and I'm going to hit the period key to zoom in. Here I have that same problem with the view extent. I need to make this like 100,000. Okay, there we go. Although, oh, that's also this clipping here. This clipping has to start at 0. Oh, no. That's not good. So 1 meter. Nope. There we go. Okay, so that car, problem is the clipping start. Okay, so we go in, clipping start. Clipping's a big problem. So let's then grab this whole car with its wheels. So I think I should just have selected the whole legend and yeah, grab it and then rotate it. And I have that car there. And I have another car here somewhere. This one's position is location of the car. Item 103, 137. So let's do 103 and 137, negative 137. Or was it 137? Let's see. 103, negative 137. So I'm just going to copy this and do this. And then bring this. So this is negative 1. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. That should do it. And then this is 0. There we go. Now that car is there. And bring it up here. And move it to here. And let's see if we can park it there. Okay. So once again, this time we're using Blender GIS to do this instead of Blender OSM. And, oh, there's one other car. There's Legend Tuned. There it is there. Let me move this over here and bring it up out of the ground. And let me go down and bring it here and rotate it just so we have it. This is, again, emphasizing that car technique. Okay, so I got these 3 cars in the landscape, and I'm just going to grab everything, select all. This I'm going to save as, I'm going to save this as USF Riverfront Park Blender GIS. That's my blend file, and now I'm going to export and try that. And I won't overwrite it. It'll just be, yeah, Blender GIS 1. And now when I go to go to spatial and go back to my space, I can replace that environment with this environment. So this is the one that we had from Blender OSM. Oh, somebody's here. Oh, me. I'm there already. Ain't that interesting? There's 2 of me because I'm in there. So let me close this down. Goodbye, buddy. All right, there I am. Just going to go and replace that environment, but this time with the Blender GIS version. And keep position. Yeah. And there I am. And there's the cars. This guy got moved for some reason. But it looks like Blender GIS also gives the same sizes. So whether you use Blender OSM or you use Blender GIS, they are the best way to get an environment into spatial because you get the sizing right. And it looked like the resolution was a bit better for Blender OSM for the map, but that's probably because I cut it a little smaller. So we can keep working on that, but yeah, that looks good. So that's the way to bring environments in to spatial using Blender. And now I'm going to look up how to make skyboxes in Blender to bring them in, because I don't want to use all this. There is this complicated procedure of using different software to get skyboxes in, but I think Blender can do it for us, and I'm going to check that out now, and then I'll get back with you. All right. Check you later. Bye.